Hey guys, in this video I'm going to work through some code from a Discord user who was looking into some bugs that they were having with the final battle. And they said they got it all sorted out already. Um, so I don't know how necessary this video is, but I do think like one of the things I want to do is talk more about like software design and object oriented design and things like that, good principles. The problem is when you're learning all these like fundamentals of C sharp, like you're typically making small programs, and so these little challenges that are spread throughout the book often don't create scenarios where you run into the hard problems. So I'm kind of using this as a chance to kind of just a tinker with the code a little bit just because it's fun to do for me. B, I think it's useful for other people as well to see how other people are solving this. I think it's useful to see, how somebody else might change the code. But I think it gives a good opportunity to sort of discuss design and how you might do something or how you might choose between different options and things like that. So I'm taking the opportunity to do that here. This is again the final battle. If you haven't done it, you'll get to it. I'm not gonna like. There's a lot of stuff in here. Like I'm not gonna. I guess I don't even actually really know what I'm gonna do other than to kind of dig into this problem that this person's having. But the first thing I'm planning on doing is I'm going to kind of make this code my own. So I'm going to just hijack it and do whatever. The first thing I'm going to do here is do some cleanup. A lot of times that's the first thing I'll do in code that isn't like it's something I'm not very familiar with because kind of working through the code gives you a chance to be exposed to what's there. So it's a good simple strategy for anytime where you're in code that you're not very familiar with or that maybe you wrote 6 months ago and you don't really remember, is to go back through and just kind of look through everything and clean things up that make sense. So that's where I'm going to start here, and it'll help me familiarize myself with the code too. So for example, this, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, this using directive often gets pulled in on accident. People are typing something, and I've done it before. If you type something fast enough, then all of a sudden you get this using directive added. We don't even need it, so I'm going to clean that up. And then I'm just going to kind of go through the rest of these. I'm not going to worry too much about this. Here's all the actions. Like you can see, punch, bone crunch, misty fist, claw. These are all the actions that exist so far in here. I'm just kind of making up mine, adding some consistency here in the convention that I prefer. So changing some white space and stuff, but looks pretty good. A lot of this code, it comes down to there's this iCharacter interface. Which this is all, I think this is pretty straightforward. I'm okay with it. I don't like that this is called attack T. I think I'm going to hit Control R and rename this. It looks like I would prefer calling it either attack type, because that's what this, that's obviously what this is, or attack types, maybe plural, because it's a list of them, or maybe just attacks. So I'm gonna just call it attacks. Just because attack T, it doesn't read as well. Like if I'm reading it aloud, it's harder to say it, attack T. But the other thing is the T doesn't reveal anything to me, so I'll just keep it simpler. Attacks, like I said, attack types, I think is a reasonable thing. So again, my personal rules. It's not just me. There are other people who do the same thing. I will almost never abbreviate things unless it's like a common convention. For example, HP for hit points is actually very common in games. So I think anybody who's working in a game like this is probably somewhat familiar with it. So I'm not going to worry about that, though you could call it hit points or health points. Anyway, attacks. And then a lot of the rest of these are these are, you know, they derive from iCharacter, so that's all they are. Between methods that have some meat to them, I will usually put a blank line. All these properties that are all just, you know, auto properties, I don't have any problems myself with no blank line in there. I feel different if I've come in here and added, let me do it on this next one. If I come in here and add a comment, you know, that ends up being a multi-line thing, then I start to feel like, well, if it's going to be many lines, let's separate it. I'm not doing that now, so I'm not going to worry about that. All right. And like most of these, werewolf, again, like this is just, it's a character. It just sets itself up. The encoded one, it just sets itself up. Skeleton just sets itself up. This class looks like it's just the party. It's got just it is an IEnumerable character. And it has a list of the heroes and the monsters and all of the characters combined, I assume. All right. I think this game engine is where a lot of the meat is. Oh, here's a bunch more. Again, like these two right here are almost for sure accidental. ECMA 335, X509 certificates. These two may have been used at some point. However, hard to be sure, right? Like I don't know the history here, but they're not needed now. Keep it clean and simple and remove that. Anyway, there is a lot in here, and we might pick this apart in a little bit, but like just tweaking the white space here a little bit. All right. Another one. Clean that up. I'm good. Like oh, put a space in here. Oh, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if that was intentionally. It's consistent. In terms of like white space and like code structure, having an extra space in here is like conventional for C#. It's idiomatic. This is like, that's what C# programmers will typically do, is they'll leave a space here. However, you are allowed to deviate from those conventions if you got a good reason for it. But the main rule I have is if you're going to deviate, be self-consistent. Even if you're not consistent with like broader usage standards, at least be self-consistent. And this one achieves that. Like there's not an empty space there. I'm going to put it in because again, this is quote unquote my code. I'm the one making changes to it. So therefore I'm going to feel okay making changes like that. But yeah, like I said, at least that was consistent. That's a good thing. So like I said, if you're going to deviate, at least be consistent. Like know how you're being different and stick to it. Know what your own rules are. It just makes the code feel more professional. All right. In going through that, there were a couple of things that I wondered about. So this is like this interface. And I like having an interface for this kind of thing, but I actually you look at all these things that like, so hero has all this stuff, and like the way this defines it, and the way skeleton defines it, and the way the encoded one, a werewolf, like they all look the same. And I think if we just made a base class, we would be able to save ourselves the trouble. Now, we could use a base class instead of the interface, but it's possible. Like, it's one of those, it is not uncommon for me to end up with both. The interface gives you ultimate flexibility about what goes in there. You can, if the logic of the base class is just not working for you, you have the freedom to just go do something totally different. But the base class allows you to remove a bunch of duplicate code. And I like that, right? The less code you have, the better. Code is a liability. Every line of code you have is a line of code you have to think about, understand, maintain. Not that you should compact it all into one, just to have fewer lines of code, one really difficult to read, understand line of code or anything like that. But just that, like, if you can achieve the same thing with fewer lines of code, that is usually good. Usually, all these little rules of like, what's good and bad in code, there are so very few hard and fast rules that they're non-negotiable. They almost don't exist. Everything is a guideline, or it's contextual. It depends on the specifics. But a bunch of rules, there I use the word again, they make sense in most contexts. Anyway, so if I do this here, now what I can do is I can say, well, let's come over to, I don't know, skeleton might be. So let's just say, like, all this has is just an auto property. Battles one, name, like all these things are what I'm going to start with. I'm just going to copy this over here into here. Ta-da! All right, so now if I come back to the skeleton class, like in theory, if I could just make this implement character, that should give me a bunch of warnings here and say, all these things already exist. Are you sure you want to define a new one? Well, the answer is nope, I definitely don't. So I'm going to just delete all of these. With the caveat that I don't want to, I do need to do something about this, and I do need to do something about this stuff here. So the first thing I can do, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to split this like this so I can see these side by side. Give myself a little more space here. So I actually, like, what if we pass in, is battles one ever going to be, well, maybe. I'll assume that this code, that there's a reason to already know ahead of time how many battles have been won. But so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to not assume what attacks this has at the character level, the base class level, but I am going to initialize it to a new list. I'm going to ensure that there is a valid collection here. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have category. There. So now I don't need to do a property initializer in line up there. I can just do it here in the constructor. Now all I have to do is come over here, make this a little bigger. So now at this point, I shouldn't need any of this stuff, and I actually shouldn't need this anymore, because what I'll do is I'll just call the base class constructor. So this will now build on this this right here, as long as I give it the right parameters, which in this case is just passing all three of those things down. So that's right, other than I do want to pass down category dot skeleton. Right, so that's all I need to do now. So I do have the ability here to, with attacks, to just wholesale replace it with a new list of attacks. But one thing I could do is I could just say attacks.add attack type.bone crunch. Right. So now, that's nice and simple. And I like that a lot. That's a whole lot less code. I do want to, before I move on, yeah, see, the places this is called, it always passes in an HP hit points of 1 and battles 1 0. And then a name. So in other words, the 1 and the 0 are always going to be the same. So what if we just don't do that and we just pass in 1 and 0 like that. And now I got to change this other code. So what I just did has pros and cons. You no longer can make a skeleton that has a different number of hit points or a different number or a different number of battles won. I think I'm okay with the battles won thing. The hit points I think is more questionable. I think it's possible you could, like, it's pretty easy to imagine having a skeleton that has 5 hit points or 50 hit points or whatever it is. Like, it's possible these could have a different number of hit points. So if you feel that way, that like not all skeletons will have the same number of hit points, then you could bring that back in. In fact, you could do int HP, a default value equals 1, right? And then oops, what did I do? I'm going to do that. I better move the name first. That. So now it'll default to 1. But if I want to do something else, I could come in here. I could say, make that 5, and now this one has 5, and this skeleton has 1 hit point. So you could do that if you want, or like I said, maybe like it really wouldn't hurt to, especially if they are going to differ a lot, to not have a default, but just say, look, I expect whoever the consumer of this code, whoever is calling the skeleton constructor, would just you decide, tell me what you need it to be. Like I said, I think that I'm going to do this, though there is an argument here that we could do something like a private static read only int default HP equals 1. Something like that. To give it a name, like some people really, like, they don't want to just see a plain old 1 sitting there. And especially if it would have been like, say, a 5, if a skeleton has 5 hit points or 4. To just have to be 4. Like sometimes 0 you can excuse as like, it's just a value. It's just the default. But when it's a different number, a lot of people, especially when it's a different number, a lot of people will say, don't use magic numbers. That's the phrase people always say, is this is a magic number. It's a 4. Like it has no meaning. It's just the secret, whatever it does, it just does something cool, and who knows what it does. It's just magic. Giving it a name like that can help to give clarity about like what the intent is. Just don't do this. That didn't add any value. Oh, sorry. That didn't add any value. So don't do it that way. But this, like, naming it default HP is a good way to do it. All right, I'm spending way too much time on this. However, what I want to do is, I think all of these are going to be about the same. If we just make it derived from character, it looks like the same thing is true for the hit points here. So we just call base and do 1 0 name category dot werewolf. Oops. Don't need that. And then I don't need any of that. Except I broke some stuff. Got to clean this up. There we go. And then let's get the uncoded one here, which should be so this one doesn't have a name. It has a hard-coded name, which is fine. Let's see, 1, 0. I think I got that right. Or not. What did I miss? Oh, I'm just getting ahead of myself is all. There. All right. So now, like I said, removed a lot of duplicate code. That's always something to strive for. Like the duplicate code thing is something that comes up in software design a lot. If you're having a lot of code that's like, it's the same thing, you should definitely be considering, how could I reduce this? Base classes are a good way to do it. Method calls are a good way to do it. Like, there's a lot of tools that are meant to eliminate duplicate code. However, like, consider this, like, here's a 1 and over here is a 1. Is that duplicate code? It depends. Because I mean, literally, like, it is the same value, and like, I mean, 1 maybe is too on the nose. Let's say this was 4. Werewolf, where's the skeleton? I closed that one because it was 4. I'm gonna delete that for a second to make it match. Like, now werewolf is 4 and skeleton, wherever that went over here, is 4. Is that duplicate code? Honestly, probably not. Because they are the same for coincidental reasons. They're not the same because they are an exact, like, they're not, they would likely evolve different from each other, I guess. Like, this is 4 because skeletons have 4 HP. This is 4 because werewolves have 4 HP to start. I'm going to turn them back to 1 now because that's what the code was before. Anyway, that, like, that's like, those decisions are not for the same reason. They're not for because 4 is somehow like if on the other hand every character was always expected to be 4, because some games might have it that way, like they're, they have different defenses or attacks or whatever, like everything has 3 hit points. I've played games like that. Everything has 3 hit points. You have to deal 3 damage, but like the stronger guys have better protection. Like, they're more likely to not take the damage. So like in that kind of scenario where it's like, look, everything is intentionally has the same number of hit points. Well, in that case, you might want to, define one constant or one static read-only int value somewhere and make them the same. In this case, like I said, I would not say that's duplicate, but because they happen to look the same, but for coincidental reasons. And the shorter it is, the more likely that is. If you have 50 lines that's all the same, it's probably not a coincidence that it's the same. Anyway, on to the next thing. So we made all these characters a lot simpler. There's another thing that is on my mind here, and that is this actions thing. Like, I know exactly how this works, and it's this. It's that. So depending on the attack selected, okay, if it's this type, then call this method. If it's this type, then call this method. If it's this type, call this. If it's this type, call this. Like, that can work. I guess I'm thinking bigger. Like, one of these like good guidelines for good software development is that you ought to be able to add new features without changing existing code. It's essentially it's this the principle, if you want to look it up, is called the open closed principle. It should be open for extension but closed for modification. And just how open and just how closed is debatable. Like, but areas that you know are likely to be extended should be easy to extend without having to change existing code. And if I wanted to introduce a new attack type, I must change this existing code. I must come in here and do this. And again, I'm dreaming really big here. If we were to ever turn this into a game that has like plugins or mods, there would be no way, with the way this paradigm, there'd be no way for a modder to add their own attack types, right? So let's. I want to see if we can tweak this a little bit to get a slightly different design that solves that problem before getting back to the thing we were doing in the first place. All right. Yeah. So I think if we like I think the approach I would take here is, if we don't put all of these in one class, if we make, for example, public interface by action, and we'll call this. I actually really like these variable names: character punched, character crunched, character misty, character caught. That one. Character listed. No, I like that a lot, actually. Anyway, if we do something like this, we say this is void action. Yeah, I mean, this says action. What if we call it an attack? And unfortunately, I'm going to lose the cool names that were in there before. Kind of, sort of. Anyway, if I do that now, I'll let's do one of these. So public. So now we can just do something like punch, which is an attack, right? And now we just take this code here, just put it in here. Public void attack. Like that. Now, like I said, some people might say, well, now what was, I mean, I don't remember. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was 5 lines of code, is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines of code. 8 lines of code instead of 5, plus, this interface is now added, right? So now I'm kind of before I removed a bunch of duplicate code, and now I have added, it's not duplicate, but I've added a bunch of code. Well, hear me out. Let's take this to completion. I'm just going to do this for all of these. So you can see, like, it's actually mostly the same code. Actually, you know what? I'm going to stop recording here so you don't have to watch it, and I'll just zip ahead and do all these. All right, so I'm done with that. I've got all these attacks. Actually, if what I do here is I say new punch attack character punch, like, I actually could just do that, and now, like, most of the code is actually still intact. Like, I didn't have to change any other code, and yet now I have a different design. I'm halfway to a new approach. I like that. Like, this is, again, one of those things where as you write more code, you eventually get to a point where you have big, hard problems that you want to change, but you can't easily change it because like it's just such a big effort, and sometimes being able to like see how you can like baby step it to the final version goes a really long, like that's a good approach to it. Is can I take one step? Okay, good. Can I take another step? Can I take another? And just iterate in small steps to something totally different. So I could do that, but I'm just gonna like, in fact, let me do it. All right, so I've got that now, and like I said, at this point, I think the program should still actually run just like it did before. It should still compile and do everything it did. It looks like I have a mess here that I need to clean up, but aside from that, there. Should still work like it did before. But I think I'm ready to make another baby step now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. So we have actions, and I'm just going to make, rather than having a method that does this, I'm going to public I attack punch. All right, so I'm going to define a property. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the place that uses this. And I'm just going to do, basically I'm just going to remove this method in its place, and then the one place that this is being used, well, now I've lost it. Hang on. It's the same place as this. So punch dot attack. All right, so now I'm using this as an object. And I can do that for these other ones, which again is a baby step. All right, so now with all of those done that same way, you can come here and see this class, when it gets created, it'll make a new instance of an attack. And the whole rest of the program doesn't know what type of attack it is, because it's this I attack. It just knows that it's one of them. It just happens to be set up this way. Now, it's not a coincidence, of course, that the property named claw happens to be a claw instance. The property in Misty Fist happens to be a Misty Fist implementation. That's convenient. But yeah, and then over here in the other place, like now we just go to our little library of actions, find the one that is associated with the thing we're doing, and then use it. All right. With that said, like, so attack selected, it's this thing here. Attacker dot attacks first or default. I think so. This right here, this attacks is going to be it's this attack type enumeration. And essentially what in order for me to add new attack types, if I wanted to add in a new attack type right now, I would have to, the way this is set up now, I'd have to implement a new I attack, and then I'd have to go to this attack type enumeration and add a new thing here. And then I would need to change this switch right here, right? What if, so like what I kind of want to do is, what I'd like to do is, well, so I do need to be able to do this. These attacks need a name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here to attack and get, say, string name get. Now I'm going to have to add that into all of these. right? Something like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually delete this enumeration, which is going to break stuff because I have 15 of these. So I guess maybe before I do that, it's this stuff here. What I want to do is add in, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this a static class. So I don't need to create an instance of it. And that probably just made a compiler error because I think we were creating an instance of this before. I don't need this anymore. And I don't need... I don't need to pass. Basically, I don't need this whole like actions thing floating around at all. There, poof, done. However, what I really want to pull off here is I want to come down in here to, okay, now how many? Still 15? Still 15 references to this. All right. What I want to do is just turn this into an I attack. So we're just going to give it a list of attacks. Oh, that's interesting. I did make this. Now I have two things called attacks, don't I? Oh, actions. I think it was actions. Maybe I'm just remembering wrong. Actions dot. Yeah, it is actions. All right. Good. So each of these will like go to this like bank of pre-existing actions, attacks, and just like depending on the character type, it'll just like fill it in. So it just draws upon, it pulls the right thing out of that bank of attacks. I do need to do a little bit of cleanup here. So this is going to be an I attack. And then I don't want to do console.run attack. I want to do dot name. And then attack dot name. Now here's where things get interesting. At this point now, all we have to do is we have to say, well, actually, so this first or default, it can return null. So this might be null. That's important. And this thing, like this line of code right here, actually already accounts for that. Other than, what's it going to continue? Nothing. So maybe let's do it this way. If attack selected is not null, then we'll just do attack selected dot attack target character. And that accounts for all of this except that. Else. Let's do the formatting that way. All right, so I did just like that code was all fairly similarly structured, and by doing this, you know, using an I attack interface, like now I can, it works a lot better. Hero does not. Oh, I didn't finish this, did I? The hero should be this too, which means I don't need any. Huh. I have to leave that character type in, right? And then this needs to just all HP battles won character. I don't need the character type, but there's another thing in there, isn't there? There's category. Oh, name. Ooh. Okay, character type. There we go. Okay, now the hero. I should have done that before. I just missed it. Yeah. So now everything's got their action set up, and this should. I can run this really quick to make sure, but this should work like it did before. Let's just do one player. If that looks correct. Oh, so sad. It worked. It looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. Anyway, that looks like it's working, and that looks good. All right, one more thing here before I get back to the main thing. Yeah, so this method, give name, I don't have any problems with it. However, it is a little, so first of all, I don't need these thises. You only need this if, I mean, there are other, I should say you only need it, but like the main time you need that is if you have something at the class level, like something that's like a property or a method or a field that has the same name as a local variable. In this case, there wasn't, so we don't need that. I don't need this local variable. I can just store this directly in name. And I can skip that. And then, so return name, like that. The thing is I just checked this. Like this is used 2 times and neither place uses that name. So I actually, like, what if we just don't? Just make this a void. Void method. I think that's a little simpler, so I like it. Let's do it. Anyway, I think maybe we're on to, now that we've done all that, I think we're on to the main problem we've got here. So let's see if we can dig into this. All right, so let's look at the issue here. So I don't know if I totally understand everything that's going on here, but I'm going to just run this and we'll see. Because the person said that when they changed this to an else if, then it worked. Um, so I'm getting in here, reset to new battle, right? So all I've done here is I'm running it with it in debug mode, and I also ran it with a debugger. Like there's an option to run. In fact, I'm running now, so I don't know if you can see it. Anyway, if you look in here, there's an option for run, and like run without debugging, I think is what it is. I'm debugging, so it's different options, but anyway, so this reset to new battle doesn't happen the second time. It happens or sorry, it doesn't happen the first time. It happens the second time. And now that I've put this breakpoint in here, I can step over. I'm pushing F10, but there's also this button here, step over, to just step through this. And we'll just see where this goes. It goes into this new battle. And I'm going to step over, which should, once it finishes this line, it should come to this curly brace, right? And it didn't. And I think that's part of the issue, is calling new game engine is starting up this next thing. So now it's telling me, here's prevailed. This is the turn list. So this is, okay, so now I can attack, and I can attack Remus, punch, dead, do nothing or I'll die, and then attack Romulus, punch. And now I'm in. So like I said, I was stepping through it. I've already at a breakpoint. I said run until you get out of here back to here, right? And surprisingly to me, I've hit this breakpoint again. I'm in this reset to new battle. I can come down here and I can see this call stack. So this is like, the book, chapter 14, talks about the stack and the heap. Like this right here is literally the thing this is literally the stack. What I can see, like I can kind of, so locals, I can see, my reference to this, but I can also pop back up a level. If I can click on this, I can see now I'm up here in this on battle manager, which is what it says. I can come up here to turns manager, battle ended.invoke. And I can come back up here to the game engine constructor. And I can come in here to reset to new battle. So like this, the previous call that I was in here and I had said like walk down into here was right here. And now I've gotten into it again. So like I'm actually like 5 levels deeper. And if there were, the way this is set up, if I had 50 battles, like if it was a series of battles and there were 50 of them, like I'd keep piling on 50 more frames on the stack. So like I said, I think, and like you can kind of see that, like if I click on this one, reset to new battle, I'm here at line 17. If I come down here and click on this, I'm down on line 20. I'm actually in this method. Essentially, I'm in this method times 2. And it'll eventually wind its way back out of all of these to the top. In fact, now that we're back in here, now if I say step over, so now in this one, my current battle number is 3, except for that this is the same object as I was in before. So actually, let's see. Current battle number, you can see that here, is 3. But if I come all the way back up to reset to new battle, it's also 3 here. If this were a different object, then the current battle number might be different. But it's the same. It is the same object, and now they are both current battle of 3, which is why when I get to the end of this, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say make the encoded one, and I'm going to go run this game engine. So I'm going to run the next battle. And I'm going to attack, and I'm going to attack. Boom. Okay, so now at this point, I've returned from this game engine, new game engine call, and I'm sitting here. And now I'm going to hit this like step out. And so so step out leaves, it runs until you have left the method you're currently in. Oh, that is interesting. Hopefully that doesn't cause me any problems. All right, I'm going to step out of this and we'll just see where it goes. Well, so now I'm sitting here in this turn manager waiting for do nothing or attack, except that it should be over, right? So I'm going to tell us to continue. It is sitting here at this console.read line. So I'm going to do nothing. This right here is probably, I can't say I've ever seen that happen. I don't know what happened, but this thread abort exception is probably related to that error message I just saw. Oh, and it died. That's what happens. I'm going to run through this really quick. I'm going to pause the video recording and get back to where I was and see if we can pick up from there without that error. I think I'm back. So I'm going to do my attack here. So now this new battle, now I've returned from this, and now I think if I do step out, step out, step out, step out, like you can see, like this stack trace is getting less and less. Turns manager, step out. And now you can see at this point, now I'm returning from this finally, which was set up when I was in this battle number 2. But now what's interesting, now I'm all the way back up here. If I just continue. Oh man, again. I can't say I've ever seen that happen. I wonder if it's because I'm on like a preview. I don't know. Weird stuff. One more time. Actually, I am in the middle of this and ran into this. So I just typed the name, like you can see this. The name is, dang it, it's Nefasto, and I typed in lowercase, like it's capitalization difference. I'm going to say I've got that wrong. What is the syntax? Equals string comparison, invariant culture, ignore case. There. So now if I mistype it, if I miscapitalize it, it won't blow up here. And I'm actually going to just pop that back up there and just tell it to run it again. And it should get it right this time. It did. Yay. Okay. Anyway. Jumping back ahead again. Hang on. Okay. Dang it. And I just told it to keep running. Well, at any rate, it can keep going. But yeah, I guess the point is that it. Hang on, I feel like I gotta just do that again. All right. So by the way, I think that error that keeps coming up. Okay, I looked at it and it said that it took too long to evaluate this method, this constructor. It doesn't typically have that sort of issue. Like I haven't usually ran into it, but I wonder if the fact that it is a constructor makes it different. Like that's honestly my guess. Anyway, I'm here now, and it shouldn't crash anymore. But like at this point, you can see like if I look at this, current battle number is 4. Like I'm still in here, and I can keep stepping through this, and we can see that like it's finally coming out of this. Anyway, the way that works, just it feels weird to me. I guess as a guideline, I would say that usually constructors should not do anything besides. And it turns out I'm wrong. All right, that is interesting. The evaluation of the function game engine timed out. Like that's not on the call stack here. It does actually, that error message has it tells you how to fix it. It tells you what to do to not see that issue again. Anyway, yeah, so like I said, the idea here is that like this shouldn't, like normally a constructor should just get the object set up and ready to go. That usually involves like initializing properties, initializing fields, that kind of thing. Which like this does, like it initializes the party, it initializes the turn list. Am I looking at the right one? Let me go back here. Yeah, so it like all of this stuff feels relatively normal. I think it's this stuff here though, given that we see this turns manager in here, that this is running the logic. Like this is the part that says like find the characters, whose turn is it, like all this stuff. And I think that part is the part that I would say maybe it would help if we did that a little different, just because it is atypical to do anything beyond initializing some stuff. And maybe that's basically it. Sometimes there's quite a bit of logic that has to run to get the object into a good initial state. Sometimes it's more than just like, this is very common. This is this assign party to this parameter, assign this to a new instance of something, assign, set up some stuff. Like that kind of thing is normal. But it's this stuff here that is a little atypical. So let's see how we could fix that. So just looking at this code, the first, like again, I don't, right this second, I don't have an answer to that question of how we're going to fix this, but I do see something in here that feels just a little bit interesting, maybe a little weird, and it's the fact that I have 3 constructors in here. This one is the constructor to call if, like there's even a comment here: first battle, second battle, third battle, final battle, not third, but I mean it is the third is the final one. There's only 3 battles in here, and so there's this question of like, what would I do here if there were 7 battles? Well, that is a good question. So it kind of looks like, well, hang on a second. Let me pause the recording and just do a little bit of studying on my own. Yeah, so the main thing this looks like it's doing at a high level is there's this constructor that just like sets up everything, including putting in the 2 skeletons that are in that first battle. And then these last 2, like the goal is like copy over stuff like the party and the series from the existing, the previous battle in the series. And that's the main difference here. And I think I want to kind of fix that. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to comment out all of that. I don't, or not delete, not comment out, but delete what's been commented out. I don't think I need that. Second of all, as I'm understanding this better, this is a, like, to call it game engine feels a bit too grandiose. Don't mean that in a bad way. I guess it is the thing that like drives the game forward. But I might call this, honestly, I might call this a battle. But I like generally speaking, I like what I'm seeing here. I'm gonna remove this comment, and the battle series gets like, this is like an old thing, so I'm gonna remove that too. I'm gonna remove these comments, even though I actually kind of like those, just because they like, I don't know, they're helpful. We didn't do it down here though either. So anyway, just to sort of do a little bit of simplification here, and then I'm gonna do a thing here really quick. Hang on. All right, so I'm using this tool called Beyond Compare, and it's in a category of tools called a diff tool, and this one, Beyond Compare, I like it. I paid money for it. It's a good tool. It's worth the money. It was like 30 or 40 bucks. There's like a one-time thing, and I've used it now for many, many years. It has felt well worth the cost to me. However, there are free diff tools, and for what I'm doing here, you don't necessarily need more than that. So if you just look up diff tool, diff as in diff, as in differential, these are tools that tell you, compare these two things, what's the difference. And when you're doing version control in software, it's a really convenient thing to have a good diff tool because it makes it easy to see some of this stuff. So I apologize, the font isn't very big here. But like you can see, like the blue is stuff that is only white space changes. The red is stuff that there's an actual change. But now I can come in here, I can analyze these changes more easily. Like this change is literally just that comment. And then the difference in this versus this is this one passes in and it has an extra parameter, this I character, the encoded one. Now, if I look in Visual Studio, I can see that it's not used. So in theory, I could delete that, but now I have 2 constructors that look the same, which is, I'm sure, why it was done that way. But I want to keep looking at the differences here. Like there's also this difference here of like what characters get put in there. And then like, so here's another comment of, an alternative way to do it. I'm not going to worry about that. But then like all of these is like second game versus first game. And then the other difference is just these comments over here. So the only real, like, these are identical, with the difference being that the goal is they add in different characters. This variable is named something different, and that like this one is meant to set up the third battle, and this one over here is meant to set up the second battle. I don't need these changes. I just wanted to confirm that was the case, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start by saying I only need one of these constructors. However, I think I actually need. The difference is, for the most part, this is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to previous. I'm going to call it battle. Even though it called a game before. And I'm going to call this one previous battle. And now if I were comparing these, I do in fact want to do this, so I'm going to So now with those tweaks, yeah, you can see that the only, well, there's some white space differences here. Yeah, I got extra white space here, which I could fix. The main differences are just the characters that I've included, right? So in theory, I ought to be able to now, what I want to do is for this constructor, I want to pass in a collection. Let's do an, I mean, I could do an IEnumerable. If I don't want that, I could do a list or an array of characters. And now, like, that's the difference between these. And so I'm just going, basically, I'm just going to clean that up. And now I know I've got, at this point, I know I've got stuff broken. So here, I need to pass in, oh, dang it. That's gone. I'm going to have to wing this new, what was it? Werewolf from US. New list of my character. There. Now, so now I only have the two constructors. And I think that's a good start. So I think I do want to continue to simplify this a little bit, but I don't like, oh, I messed that up. Party dot add character. What I can do here is party dot I guess I better do it for each. For each I character in characters party dot add character the character. So however many there were in the for the third battle, there's one. For the second battle, there's two. We could have a battle that has 74 of them. You know, whatever it is. And I mean, what's kind of interesting is that like we're doing the same thing here. It's just different, right? And so I kind of wonder, like, let's now compare this and this. Like, what are the differences? Well, this one we have a previous battle to refer to. Here we don't. I guess I'm wondering if we can somehow collapse these a bit, and it might just be. Might just so let's see. That we may not be able to. But like, I mean, same thing here. Like, I'm just trying to think through because like this line and this line are the same. This turn list is the same. But there's just enough other stuff in here. So, with that said, both of these two methods I don't know. I'm just trying to think of the strike. The real problem here is that we have some, like when we move this dot, the this is the real problem, is turns manager comes in here and it does this stuff, and then eventually when the round ends, it calls this event, which something is listening to. Find usages. This right here, battle series dot on battle manager. And then this runs that. And then that comes in here and sets up the new battle, right? Which then immediately runs that battle. Let's see. What are we going to do here? Well, I think the first thing I'm going to do is just do a little bit of cleanup here. Again, that's a very common thing for me. When I can see little things that make the code better, but I'm having a harder time understanding the bigger problem, those little changes are often really easy to just go do. And then the code is simpler. I have more experience with the code. It's easier to do something with it. So the main thing I'm seeing here is, okay, I want to call this start next battle. And then what I want to do, like, there's no need, like, there's this and there's this, and there's no need for both of them. So I think I'm going to, so for what it's worth, this like on naming convention is not uncommon. But it is helpful for me, at least, to like know like what triggered it, like what led to this. So like I would probably call this on battle ended. Like what was the event that did that? And like I said, here it's called battle ended. So like I like that better. Maybe that, like, it depends on what else needs to happen when the battle ends. But I think I'm going to just delete this, and then those two places that needed it, I'm going to just compile and find out where those were again. And just, instead of calling on battle end, just call start next battle. So one fewer code element. Here's another change that I think will help me. This in battle, there's this turns manager, which is this is the same method we've been looking at here. Like I don't, like I said, I actually think this right here is a big part of our issue in terms of just like re-entering it in a weird way. I think this create turn list is actually a pretty reasonable thing to do. Like we need to know who's gonna do stuff, and so I'm okay with, this is another one of those things where it looks like this returns. Sorry, my brain's jumping around here. Like it returns it, but it also just sets up the thing. Like maybe we just make this void and just not return the turn list. Like it sets it up exactly as we want it to. So maybe we just do that, but we can actually make this private. So I'm gonna get a little crazy here. Make that private, and now, but then like, so create turn lists. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, look, we expect, oh, I don't think I can do that there. I think I gotta wait until after, right? It at least needs these characters added. So again, I'm kind of just wiggling stuff to see what is loose, what can be wiggled easily, and what can't be. By the way, I I like this. I like the shuffle method. This little thing that just says just pick a couple of random things and just there Fisher Yates shuffle. Like it's a nice little algorithm. Nicely done. Yeah. So this like I do feel like this kind of thing is is a pretty reasonable thing for the constructor to do. I think it's this turns manager that's the problem. So another thing I'm going to do here is like methods usually should be verbs or verb phrases. You're asking the object to do something. And turns manager is a noun phrase. Like to me, like just looking at what this does from what I've seen, like this is like the run method. Like I'm just gonna call it run because we're already in the battle. Like this, that's what it is. And so like it stands out a little more here where this calls run. So anyway, I put this create turn list in here, which means like up here, I don't need to call that anymore. This is the one like when we create the, again, I renamed that to battle and now this feels misnamed. All right. Anyway, there we go. I don't remember where I was. I must have been in here. So now these methods are starting to look more similar, which I do like. Like I said, there's a bunch of this stuff. Let's see if I can. Like I kind of want to not initialize this here and just like let's just have this guy do it. Which there's a comment in here. Oh, let's do turn list equals new. Actually, I can get away with that. Oh, or I don't even have to do that because this right here will do it. Yeah, let's just let that do it. All right. Anyway, so the point I guess is like I guess I'm trying to like get these down to the same thing except for this run. And I feel like I'm close. Except for I don't know if I actually can achieve that because this is meant to like copy over the party, the battle series. The surviving characters. Like it's meant to like copy over all this stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's not solvable. Other than like I do kind of. What I don't want is for the first battle to always be. This is one of the things that I want to change. Like I don't want the first battle to be required to always just. It must create these skeletons. Like that it happens to do that, but that isn't required. So I kind of want to at least do this. And then do. Well, let me jump back up to program. There. So, like I said, this run is, we know that's going to be a little different. This create turn list is definitely, so this part matches, this part matches. I guess what I'm wondering, again, I'm just kind of massaging this and just hoping. Like this, all this does is it just creates a party. What if... well, if I do that... All right, so... like this code here, I feel like this takes care of it for the first battle, but the other two, how are they handling it? I think that it's this create turn list. Does this have that merge? I don't see it if it is in here. Like, I guess like how I guess I'm confused about how this works. It's this right here. Oh no, it's not. Dang it. Thought I had it figured out. Okay, I'm gonna pause the recording. I'm gonna figure this out and then I'll come back. Okay, I think I got it figured out. This program is calling, like, it's doing this merge list. Really, though, I mean, despite that this has 5 references, this is for all practical purposes unused, and it took me a little while to like sort that out. But so first of all, there's these down here. This has 0 references. It's not used. This has 1 reference. But the place this is referenced is right here. So I don't need these other than that was there to satisfy this in order for a party to implement IEnumerable of iCharacter, which could make a lot of sense. Like you could have party implement IEnumerable of iCharacter. And allow you to iterate over party, but most of the things that are doing this are iterating over something else. So I'm going to just remove that. We don't necessarily need it. I can remove this using, and then, so now I'm down to 4 usages of this. This is called in this merge list. Oh, hang on. Dang it. I just jumped away. Where did that go? Party. Like if I look at this, like all characters, like this is that all characters list is set up in program. We were looking at that. And then the other places that it uses it are, well, it's these 3 right here. It's that this merged list is called, and this is done here. So in theory, like I actually can just remove that and remove that and remove that and program, where are you? Move that. And there, it all builds. Now I do feel like it's worth pointing out that this type of like thinking this through and like deciding if I can actually delete all that is stuff that I've done a lot before. And when you're learning how to program, that spotting that kind of thing is harder. And there are plenty of times in bigger code bases that it's beyond me to figure out. Like I just can't, there's too many weird scenarios and like too many moving parts to just cleanly separate that. Sometimes I have to, it can be tough. The more practice you have doing that kind of stuff, and it's like refactoring, just going through like changes. Do I need this? Can I make it look different? without actually changing behavior. Like I actually haven't, like I'm trying to keep all these changes have been refactoring. I haven't tried to change the behavior of anything. It gets easier as you do it more. And I think it's a very important skill because most of the time you will be modifying existing code, not writing brand new code. So being able to refactor and change the code into what you want it to be is a really useful skill. So don't be afraid to get in and start pushing and pulling on stuff and saying, how does this work? And I mean, do it slowly and carefully. Make sure that you aren't breaking stuff as you go. If you have a good unit test suite, that's a whole other topic, but that can be a lifesaver. If it's a good unit test suite. If you write bad unit tests, then I would have just broken, 200 unit tests with the changes I made, and I'd have to repair them all, and that's not great. But a good suite of unit tests can save you from accidentally breaking stuff. Anyway, I meant to do this for maybe 30 minutes, and my recording time is an hour and a half almost. So I don't want this to keep going on too much longer. So, like I said, I'm just trying to think through whether, like the main thing I'd like to know is, can I manage to consolidate these? And maybe I should just stop worrying about that. Like I said, I'm confident there's a way to do it. I just feel like I'm way, like I should have not. I probably actually spent 2 hours of time messing with this, and I've got other things to do too. So let's see. Let's just wrap this up. Like I said, I think the main thing here is that it's this run that used to be called turns manager. This is the main thing that's causing us problems. And like I could, like, as long as I don't do that in here, then we're fine. But then I had to come over here and say new battle.run. Same down here. New battle.run. And now at that point, like at least the construction of the object doesn't cause weird things to run off and happen. It only does that when I specifically tell it to do that. I don't feel like I'm done just yet, though. And that's because what I kind of want to have happen is it's like this new battle, like it isn't even really used. Like, yeah, like the places this is used is here, 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 and here. And if I just said, I'm not going to do that at all, I'm going to say var new battle.run. If I just do that, now I don't have that, but like, I guess I'm doing some renames here. Like I kind of like this is that was called game engine before, because this was called game engine, and now if I just call this battle property, but what I want to do is not like I won't name a method something method, and I won't call a class something class, with just a couple of exceptions. For example, I think there's some examples in the book where I have a point and I want to compare a class versus a struct, and so I have a point class and a point struct, specifically to illustrate this is very definitely a class, not the struct. Like that's the main difference. In this case, though, like I wouldn't call it battle property. I just call it battle, or maybe current battle. So let's try that. But yeah, what's interesting here is like this never actually changes away. from that. And what if it did? Like, what if we, I'm just trying to think how this would work. The event for the battle ended kicks off ultimately this start next battle. And I guess what I'm kind of hoping I can do here is something like not do these runs here. Like if I just don't do that and then actually set up current battle. Oh, okay. Well, that's a little interesting. This at this point, when it's evaluating this, it'll figure out what the current battle now is. Create a new battle based on the current battle. Add in the monsters for it, and then update this. So now I've removed the runs. That is like unless I change that. Here's what I'm gonna do. So like at this point now, the second battle won't even run, and we got to figure out like what the right answer to that is. Oh no, I've broken more than that. Oh, I have, and that's because I created the turn list too early. Dang it. So much for refactoring. I broke something. It's because I'm calling this here and the heroes don't exist yet. Which is probably the reason why this person did it that way. Before that was being called, I don't know, but like down here somewhere. However, I think this is smart enough. Like depending on which character it is, like if it's a hero, it puts in the heroes. If it's in the monsters, it adds it to the monsters. I think if what we did is I'm like flipping all these things around. I think if we said we are going to create the heroes up here. I don't have a battle yet. So much stuff. Like what if I just pulled these out of the battle and just said, no, that the setup for the heroes, I am just going to put them over here. I'm just going to make some local functions here. I don't need the public on them if I'm doing that. And then I'm just going to say return. And then I'm going to say, you know what? Why not just do it all in one go? And actually what I want here is a list of a character. So we're going to create heroes. So we're going to ask the user, don't need a return. So now I do want Let's see. I name that create heroes. Come back to that in a second. I think I'm gonna just kind of restructure this a little bit. So we get that number. So now if heroes number equals 1, or heroes number is 2, list of I character heroes equals new return hero. So if they entered in a good number, we're going to create a list and do that. So if it's 1, what we'll just do is we'll say heroes.add new hero 10 character type Fletcher. If heroes number is 2, heroes.add new hero 10 character type.tog. By the way, that was tog is just a username. It wasn't meant to be anything too fancy. Anyway, so now if I have a valid number, then I'm going to create my list, and then I'm going to add in the first one that I'm expected to have, and then I'm going to, if there's 2 of them, I'm going to add in a second one. Now I could make some sort of loop if we want to support 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever it is. Like I could do more. Like I could just use a loop to do more. And like I don't think there's a practical difference between these 2 different character types. Maybe. Like I haven't seen it in all the stuff I've been doing here. Anyway, so I'm gonna leave it like that, and then so like I don't like that replaces all of this. The only thing that it doesn't cover is if somebody did something weird. Anyway, this is interesting. It isn't how I would do it, but I do see people do this kind of thing, especially if they're like if they've done a lot of like functional programming before, because it's recursion. It just says, look, I'm going to try this thing, and if it doesn't work, I'll just call it again. It's like a loop. I think I would tend to just do a loop. Like I like recursion a lot, but I don't know. There is like, if they keep failing, like there is a possibility. It's a kind of a stupid, crazy possibility. There is a possibility that with recursion, you could run out of space on the stack. Maybe there's a chance that the compiler is going to recognize that this. And that's a whole other thing. I'm not going to get into that. Like this keeps digging down deeper and deeper into the call stack, and if the user keeps making a mistake, you'll eventually run out of space on the stack. I think that would take. I mean, it depends on how many local variables there are and some configuration and stuff, but it's probably tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. Like they'd have to really be trying hard to get it wrong. And then it would just crash. I guess I'm not too worried about that. Like I said, it does, like now I don't have a big chunky outer loop around all this. I just recursively call it. So I'm not like, I think it's fine. It might not be what I would do, but I'm not going to bother changing that. Let's see. This is saying that I could just initialize it to that, and it's true. So I could do new right? Like just initialize it that way. I don't know that I like that code any better, but it's certainly a thing. All right, so I like that. But now, all right, so the trick here is list of I character heroes equals create heroes. All right. Now, list of I character monsters equals that. And now we have to just combine these, right? So heroes dot concat monsters dot to list. And now at this point, when we get in here, the heroes and the monsters exist, and hopefully I fixed my one bug. Yeah, it looks like it. Nope. I mean, yes, but it's using that unknown. Hero with no name. So I'm still missing that part. Yeah, that was in here, and I just deleted it. So I'm actually going to. Let's do this for each. Hang on a second. The thing is like, I need to get that give name called, but give name is not an I character method. It's a hero method, right? Yes, that's right. So the problem I've got now is if I make this an I, or sorry, not if I make it a list of heroes, now I can say for each hero name. But now this is a list of heroes, not a list of I character. And even though hero is derived from I character, list of hero is not derived from list of I character. So I'm going to make it an IEnumerable, and that fixed my problem. And that's because of a thing that's covered in that I'm trying to remember what that chapter's called, the grab bag chapter, all the advanced, like other language features is what it's called. It's the generic variance thing. It's that it can't guarantee that a list of heroes versus a list of I character works, but given that this is an IEnumerable of I character, it knows that you can't do anything with a list of, if you treat this as this, it'll be okay because IEnumerable. I'm not explaining it well, but it's this right here. Because IEnumerable only returns these, it's only used as an output position, return value. It's because it is limited in its usage. It's able to get away with that. We can return a list of not the type specified, but a derived type. So that solves that. This needs to be an I enumerable. Jeez, so much stuff, right? Jump through a lot of hoops here. Now let's try running this. Okay, now it's at least making me pick a name. Oh, what? Oh, is Bone Crunch is 50-50, right? Yeah, I think so. Okay. So yeah, back to okay. I think we've patched up the bugs that I inadvertently created. And man, like I said, I jumped through a ton of hoops here. I once again, like I've got almost 2 hours now of recording, so I hope that some of this is useful, even if you don't do, even if all of it isn't. But let's see. Yeah, so the big difference here is like we create the battle and then we run it. But the catch here is this run, it'll run it once. And when it does end, then what we'll end up seeing is we return from this run and it's going to be a little weird. Oh, man. After nearly 2 hours of recording, I think one thing I would say is to the person who wrote this in the first place, yes, you could make all these changes, but you are going down a path that is somewhat reasonable. Like it's like I've made a bunch of changes, and I think there's lessons learned and all of that. But I think that you can get to the finish line of the final battle without making these big changes. I think you'll be just fine. It might add in some code that you look at and say, oh, that's a little weird. Do I really want or do I need to do it that way? And the answer is no. Like there's a lot of ways you could do these things, and I'm showing a different way. But I guess the point is like I've jumped, even with just this last thing I did where the generic variance thing, where I made that enumerable. Somebody who's just learning C#, even after everything in the book, it's a journey, and it is like becoming a really good programmer, a really good software engineer, really good C# programmer. Like it takes a long time, and like I'm seeing these things and doing it the way I'm doing it because I've been programming for decades. And you anybody wouldn't have seen all these things, and like legitimately people are going to feel different about this. Like there's a lot of this that is personal opinion, or just on a different day, a different mood, I might have done some of this stuff a different way anyway. So like I'm making all these changes, 2 hours of changes. Somebody not me, who less experienced, might have taken 20 hours to make all these changes. And like, is it really worth that when you're at this point in your journey? No, it's not. Like I said, look at the changes and think about what works about them and what don't you like about them. And then for the next program, and it might not, I mean, maybe like I said, some of these are things you're going to incorporate into your own final battle challenge, but maybe a bunch of these are ones that you just say, don't worry, I'll think about an approach like that in my next big program, right? Like it really getting good at software engineering is just writing lots and lots of programs combined with carefully analyzing what worked about a choice that you made and what didn't, and then thinking about that the next time, that it's this constant learning, and you're taking time to think about why was this, like, you run into some issue. Why was that bug so weird or hard to pin down? What could I do differently about it? Anyway, like I said, I want to push forward on this. Like, as I said, I'm really close to it. It's just that, so what I really need is, what I could do here is, like, say battle series, and this has been updated. Like, we just did this. Current battle equals that, and then battle.run, right? Like, we could do that, and then we say battle equals battle series battle.run. Right? So now for 3 times we'll run the battle, and then we'll update to the next battle, and then tell that one to run, and then we'll update to the next battle, and then tell that one to run. And I think I'm gonna check this off screen, off camera, but I think that actually is enough to get the 3 battles we're doing to work. So hang on a second, let me just double check that. So yeah, it does. It is actually working. But like I said, I don't love that, to just do this. But I think in order to fix that, it's one thing we could do is we could just, are we going to know? So let's see, in that code, where's that? This right here. We could say if current battle number is greater than or equal to 4, current battle equals null. Like, we could null it out, which this thing doesn't. It claims it can't. It won't be null. So I'm going to change that, and then I'm going to come back here to program, and I'm going to say while battle is not null, run it, and then update it to the current battle, and that I think should fix it. It's just, yeah. Anyway, it's just weird that this part here is weird to me. I go to the battle, and I go to a series, and then I go to the current battle. It's a weird way to get to that next battle. So let me just run this off screen again and just make sure that it's working. All right, so it didn't quite work. I set a breakpoint in here. Basically, I'm just churning through this over and over again, and it's what's happening is, you can see it here. It's just not coming out of that, and I think that the main issue there is we actually aren't saying that the battle ended. So I think what I'm going to do is remove, if we get to here, then the battle is over, right? So I actually want to invoke this in all cases. And I want to move this out of there. So maybe something like that. And then what I want to do is come over here. Put that right there. So after we do break out of it. So now, before, it was it was an intentional choice. We didn't want that. Once it gets to the end, it was supposed to bail. Anyway, let me again run this off. Yeah, so that looks like that is working. Like I said, I think the weird thing to me is still it's this thing. And I think that maybe that could be solved by, rather than having the battle create the series, is this part here. I kind of want this guy to not be. Does this get used? Battle series. Well, it's definitely used quite a bit. I get, like, again, the recording time of this is now just short of 2 hours. I can't spend more time on this, unfortunately. Um, yeah, it seems like if there were a way to move rather than have like the battle create it and like own it, like I feel like that should be flipped around. I feel like the battle series is a thing that should be like I don't know, like the battle series should like keep track of like the current battle and like do maintenance on like which battle is running. So like I feel like the battle shouldn't create the series. Rather, like what I almost want to do is come down here. Let's see, where is it? I want the battle series. What I almost want is something like this where I'm honestly not sure, but like something like rather than have this guy pass this in, um, do something like this where we say like so list of list of I characters. So like what if we said forget that, forget that. What we're gonna get and do is make a list, and this is gonna be a little weird, but list of I characters. So it's a collection. So a list of I character heroes. Why not make that read only? All right, so we can do that. And now, like I said, I'm making a huge mess of this now. What I'm wanting to do is come up. So this is called here. But what I want to do is set up the. All right. Something like this. That's what's going to be cool about this, maybe, if I can make it work. So now I can just like configure this. I can do that, and I can grab this. I can do this. So now I just set up all my battles like one party at a time. And then I pass in the battle series. Maybe I do that here too. And then I don't have to copy that. I'll just have the series. I don't have to make that. I can just do, let's see if we can make these. Oh man, I've changed so much stuff here. At this point, it feels like it's just doing who knows what. I hope people find this useful because that's been a lot. Let's see. All right, so instead of making this, okay, this stuff in here, well, this line here is essentially what I'm trying to do there. And then this stuff here, like that might be useful. I'm just going to get out of my way for right now. It could be the right thing to do. Now, so I've defined a battle series. I've given it my heroes. So the battle series knows about the collection of heroes, and it knows about each different group of monsters, right? So this is all the monsters. And in theory now I ought to be able to just say, you know what, let's add in another party, and let's add in a werewolf and a skeleton named Bob and a new skeleton named Joe, right? Like now it's really easy to just make more there, and I have a lot of rounds. Like I don't want to do that right now, but like that's the thing I like about this approach. For better or for worse, like I said, I've changed so much now. I still have a little more to do, but now that the battle series is here, now it's like the series can create the battle. Which, does it already do that? It does. If I could party character series. So now I'll pass in this. I'll pass in myself and say, okay, you should create the next battle. But now at this point, so this code needs to change. But I ought to be able to do. In fact, so actually, one nice thing about this is I ought to be able to just call start next battle, which doesn't run it. Remember, we've changed that. This just initializes the battle. But now at this point, this if current battle number is 1, which is what it starts at, then current battle equals new battle. Party characters series. Okay. Once again, like I said, I've changed so much stuff here, but I'll say I have changed a lot of stuff, but at the same time, like the spirit of where this code started is still intact. Um, I feel like imagine like you're learning to draw and you've got a drawing that's actually, I mean, is it, the Mona Lisa? No, and you know that, but you draw some stuff and you're like, hey, look, I've made progress. Things are looking pretty decent. And I know it's not the Mona Lisa, but it's a person, and this is the best eye I've ever drawn, and the best like nose. And yeah, like it looks a little weird because I'm bad at noses, but I'll get there. You're like, hey, teacher, look at this. And the teacher comes over and is like, oh yeah, look, if you like just change the nose a little bit like this. Oh, and if you change the mouth, and if you change the eyes, and if you change the hair, and if you change, all of a sudden the teacher's like gone mad with stuff, and it's like, okay, like my drawing is still under there, but like, uh, anyway, I'm having fun messing with code. If nothing else, I'm getting some joy out of that. However, with this, like I can actually simplify this because so the first one's going to be weird, right? The first one is a special case because it doesn't have a current battle. Um, so I'm going to just leave that alone. But if current battle number is so basically what I'm trying to do is like these, and if I did like if I had more legitimate battles, like it's just the only difference is just getting the right group of monsters in here, right? So I think I can less than monster dot length count. It's a list. So if I do this, and I can say current battle equals new battle. Take the previous battle, is still in current battle. Monsters at index current battle number -1. And I'm still going to end up with that. I'm going to use the null forgiving thing that this in this case, like it'll once it becomes null, it'll stay null. But once it becomes null, I won't ever get back into this start next battle. Like this condition won't ever be true anyway. So I know that if this is I know that if it ever gets into here, this won't be null because I'm checking this. Let's see. So I think I'm off by one though. Let's see. Current. So it's possible it starts at 1. The legitimate values here are 1, 2, and 3. So if it's 3, it needs to be less than or equal to. We got a cat that is sure it's time for some food. And he's right. He just came up, climbed on top of my keyboard, and just stared into my face. And I moved him out of the way, and now he's just laid down on my desktop by my keyboard. So I'm gonna have to go feed him. I gotta be done here. I really do. So this series will create a battle. So now at this point, what I can do is say while series dot current battle is not null. Series dot current battle dot run. And at this point, I think I could just do that. The code I had in here, like I don't need to like update to the new one because the series dot current battle is already doing that. All right. All right. I'm gonna off screen once again just go check this and make sure that it feels right. Hang on. All right. It does look like it's working, and I added in one more thing here, and it did all work. The only thing is I might have messed this up. It says choose your battle name, Valiant Warrior, then press enter. If you have a companion, enter their name and press enter. Like it does that twice. I think I might have messed that up. I think it's oh, maybe not. Like I feel like that should be two separate things, and the way to do that would just be to pass in like a string parameter that's like what text should you prompt the user with. Anyway, all right, let's see if, if I can manage to summarize this. Like there's a lot of changes that were made here. I think the biggest thing that I did different though, like the thing we spent most of the time on is just like flipping around dependencies, like what knows about what and what like does what with what. And again, object-oriented design is something that a lot of people's first exposure to it, they feel like, what the heck is going on here? And then they start to get a little bit comfortable with it. And then they run into like these complex challenges. Like I've got like 8 objects here. Like how do I make these all work together? And it's, again, like this is one of those, this is the reason why I'm making videos like this is to start to like talk through that, to have some examples, to like help people like start to see it. I honestly, with all the changes I've done here, I have no clue how useful this is going to be to people. I hope it's at least vaguely helpful. Um, I hope it's at least vaguely helpful to the person whose code this was in the first place. But it's like I said, object-oriented design does take a little bit of getting used to, but it is, once you do, it's actually super cool. To be able to build programs out of these smaller pieces that are easy to understand, um, are mostly self-contained. Like that's the idea that we're going for here. So again, I hope that this is at least somewhat useful. But the main difference, the main change, which like I say, resulted in all sorts of other changes. But the main change was just making it so that as the battles ended, that we didn't just like basically the constructor didn't just run the next battle. Constructing a battle shouldn't just go ahead and run that battle. It should only do that when you tell it to, especially in this case where we had an event that would go start the next battle. Just because like it creates this like weird thing where we kind of we actually have multiple battle instances alive in memory and technically still kind of running. And their logic is in different states, and like that is the that's the part that are like flipping around a lot of these dependencies should have helped. Like I said, I've made so many changes. I feel like I probably touched half of the lines of code in here, and by doing that, I've probably done a lot more than I should have done, because what was here was like it was definitely a good, valiant effort to do this. And by making all these changes, I definitely don't want to diminish the hard effort that went into getting this to where it is. Like I said, I think the spirit of that code is still here, but I really did make a mess of stuff, more so than I usually do with this. And there's a part of me that thinks, well, maybe I shouldn't post this recording, because I just like how useful is it when, like I said, my example earlier, you're painting and it's not the Mona Lisa, it's not this like the most perfect code ever, but it is a good effort, and it has been a lot of work, and I definitely don't, by making all these changes, I definitely don't want to undercut that effort. And like I said, I think that you could definitely reach the finish line without making any of these changes. Hang on a second. Yeah, so I'm just looking through the challenges in the final battle, and we are definitely through all of the core challenges. And if you look at the description, the path that there's 2 pathways that you can go. to do the 9 core challenges that are done and 2 of the expansion challenges. So like really, and actually maybe I need to look at these expansions again. This might be like done. There's no items, there's no gear, there's no stored inventory. Expansion, Vin Fletcher. Like there is a Vin Fletcher in here. The bow attack, the bow isn't in the game yet. There's no attack modifiers or damage types. There's this expansion, making it your own, where you can do whatever you want, and the restoring balance. Like this might actually represent a done program anyway. So like I said, this code is literally like right at the doorstep of being done, even without my changes. So there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, there's probably more work to do if, like some people, you want to do all the expansions and get all the experience points. You want to do items and gear, and that when you defeat a party, then the inventory gets handed over. And attacks that have a probability of just outright missing rather than just like a chance of 0 damage or whatever. Attack modifiers, damage types, like those things. I think you could get to the finish line just fine with the code that was in there. So again, I'm now in the apology tour part of the video. Like I said, I made a bunch of changes. I think that anybody who watches this will get something out of it, other than it is 2 hours and 17 minutes. Geez, way longer than I meant to go. Way longer than my cat wants me to go. Actually, I mean, that's still probably true, but he looks like he's gotten ready for a nap, so you could probably wait another 20 minutes for food. Not going to do that. Anyway, yeah, apology tour. Like I said, I've changed all sorts of stuff. I hope that just kind of going through the exercise of like manipulating stuff and trying out things and like tinkering and poking and prodding and just like turning it into something similar. Like I said, same bones. Like all the general structure is still here, but I flipped some things upside down and inverted stuff and moved some stuff around. And but I hope that in all of that, there's at least some things that people look at and say, "Oh yeah, that I could use that in my next project." Or maybe that's one of those things that I'm gonna embrace that idea and just do that right now, without feeling like, oh, now I've got to go make all these changes. So definitely, to the original author of this code, don't feel like any of this is like it's all wrong. You got to go change it to be like what I did. That's definitely not what I'm saying. It's just, some little things that I feel like are. It's a good moment to talk about design, which is what we've done. Hopefully, and to just compare some different options and just work through it. And again, like this has all been relatively unscripted, so you see, like the only thing that you didn't see is all the times that I paused the recording and poked and prodded, mostly just running the code off screen. But this is kind of like, this experience is quite literally what a lot of writing software is about. It's, I need to add in this feature, but this code is weird for that. So I'm going to go change it a bit so that I can achieve the goal that I'm trying to achieve. But yeah, again, for anybody looking at this, this is the final battle is definitely a hard challenge. Like it will make you work for it. There's a lot of XP tied up in it, right? I think it might be a couple thousand experience points. Hang on, now I want to just know. So just the core stuff is 1,650 experience points. And if I did my math right, I think it was 1950 at the maximum end for all the expansions. And like I said, you're not expected to do all the expansions and all the core things. You're supposed to pick a path, but a lot of people do both. And if you do everything in there, you're just short of about 4,000 experience points. So it is a hard problem. It's meant to be a hard problem. It's meant to be something that like you can actually like show to people and say, look, here's this thing I did. And people say, "Oh, you actually did something significant." Like when I've gone and learned other programming languages, a lot of times, like the biggest program I make is still like 20 lines of code long. Like it often just doesn't end up being that big. So I intentionally wanted it to be something that for the people who are willing to put in the effort, have something to show for it. It is console based. That's, less fun. But anyway, so yeah, anybody who gets to the final battle and anybody who does, whether they do every single expansion or follow what the book says and just do the core, like the core step plus 2 expansions, or they start from my code and just add in some of the expansions or whatever it is, it's a big deal. It is big. It is hard. And you're going to learn a lot by doing it. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to look back and say, man, maybe I should have done this other way. Maybe I should have done that thing. If you get across the finish line, even if it's by crawling across because you barely, it's like, oh man, it works. I don't like this. I don't like that. Like that's normal. That's normal certainly for somebody learning to program in C#. Like it is definitely a hard challenge. It's meant to make you work for it. And I'm sure if you are watching this video and have done this challenge, you felt that too. It's honestly probably a little bit too big. I might, in future editions, not that I want it to be easy, but I might do some things to simplify it just a little bit. I'm not sure what that looks like, but anyway, yeah. So with all my changes, don't feel like any of what was here before is necessarily wrong, just different. Just like I said, me trying out some stuff and just exploring the space a little bit. I'll share this code back with the original author. They can look at it and do what they want with it. But again, just a different take on it, and hopefully learned something or saw maybe some things you're like, yeah, I didn't like that. That's okay too. That's totally fine. If there's things like, yeah, I hated that. Like those are good. That's you forming opinions of like what works and what doesn't work for different situations. So that's part of the learning journey. So again, like I said, I changed all sorts of stuff. Nobody should feel like they need to change this much stuff. I just ran away with it. Anyway, apology tour over. Congratulations to the person who did this. This is, like I said, a monumental amount of work. It's, like I said, as far as I can tell, without having checked every little nook and cranny, this definitely finishes all of the like core challenges. And I think even without my changes, was in a good spot for finishing either the couple, like the 2 that are required by the book, or all of them if you want to get all 100% the book. So congrats on getting where you are. Like I said, everything that's in here, take it for what it's worth. If you like it, use it in your next thing. Maybe if you really want, you can fold it into what you're doing with it still, if you're still working on it at all. But yeah, like it's not, none of this is to say that what was here before was bad or wrong. It definitely wasn't that. It was good. Anyway, now my cat's awake again and telling me it is definitely time for food. So I'm going to sign off. Hopefully that was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.